Some big time clutch home runs from superstars went to waste yesterday, and the Rangers picked the right time to get hot.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all the Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. There's my lower third. You can call me Sully. I am an Emmy-nominated television producer who has been a baseball podcaster for the last decade or so. This is my fifth full season here at the Locked On Podcast Network. Follow us on Twitter, or whatever the hell it's called now, at Locked On MLB Pods on also same handle on Instagram. I am your pal Sully. I'm in Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And please subscribe and tell your friends about us, because we are about to get into the home stretch. Hey, before we get into recapping what happened on a strange Monday, where there were some wild games, some extra inning games, and some surprising finishes, let's go over the trivia question, which was, where did I put it here? Where did I have this here? The question I had was, I've been talking about the Angels and some of their futility, and I'm going to bring up the Angels again in the final segment today. You think I'm picking on you, but you keep coming back at me. Now I'm going to get back at you. This one was actually directed at John from the Super Halo Brothers. But the question I had was, who nailed down the final postseason game ever won by the Angels franchise? And the answer, who wrote it here? It was it was at I can't even read it. I don't have my glasses with me. I left my glasses in my classroom here, and I've officially got to the point where I can't read something unless it's staring right at me. So I got to go up to this and read it on a bigger screen than on my phone. And it was at MBLMA6329 on YouTube. Brian Fuentes was the Angels closer who locked down Game 5 of the 2009 American League Championship Series. The Angels lost the first two games of that championship series to the Yankees. They had a lead late in extra innings in Game 2, and Alex Rodriguez hit a game-tying home run off of Fuentes. The Angels forced a Game 6, but the Yankees wound up winning that one. And the Angels haven't won a postseason game since. They've gone the entire 2010s without winning a single postseason game. We are now going to enter 2020 is the fourth year of this decade. All right? It's been a little bit. And that length of futility is going to be part of my response to something that was written to me by John, one of the Super Halo Brothers and host of Locked On Angels. It's kind of late right now, but there are a lot of cool games going on. You know, not too long ago, I had actually one of the highest watched videos that I did on this particular channel. Excuse me. Sorry. Which I titled it Texas Fold'em, because the Rangers just got their butts handed to them by the Houston Astros. And with that, plus the white hot Seattle Mariners and the rampaging Astros, it looked like the momentum and the horrific pitching by the Rangers was basically going to sink the team. They went from looking like they were going to be a possible 100-win team, certainly high 90s, to falling totally out of the playoffs, game and a half out with only a few games to play. Well, you know how I say it's never the wrong time to go on a big winning streak? Well, the Rangers decided now is the right time to go on a winning streak, and they are now on a 3-game winning streak. But it's not just any old winning streak. They won today, Jonah Heim and company, against Chris Bassett, who is one of the best pitchers in the American League right now. They went north of the border and took on Toronto, who's one of the teams that they're chasing. So it's one of those critical head-to-head type games. And they did a victory that could best be described on a CB radio because it was 10-4, good buddy. The Rangers and over the Toronto Blue Jays. And I mentioned Jonah Heim, who had a tremendous game for the Texas Rangers. In fact, he drove in 5 runs all by his lonesome. And with that, the Rangers are finding themselves back into a playoff spot because while the Rangers are on a wild winning streak right now, 3 games, look, no, it's not going to remind you of that scene in Moneyball. By the way, I'm going to bring that team and that concept up a little bit in segment 2. But they're critical games to win. You win 3 in a row. At this point, when you're midway through September, you got to start piling up these wins, especially when you're going up against one of the teams that you're chasing the wild card hunt. Meanwhile, the Angels played the Seattle Mariners. Back and forth game. And the Angels took a lead, a 2-run lead in extra innings. And up stepped Julio Rodriguez. And Julio Rodriguez hit a massive 2-run home run to tie the game. Everyone went ballistic. He is now a 30-30 man. And it looked like, oh my God, the Seattle Mariners are going to win a super dramatic game. However, they couldn't push the winning run home, and the Angels jumped all over the Mariners bullpen the next inning. So the Angels wound up winning that game. The final score was I believe it was 12 innings, and the final score was the Angels 8 and the Mariners 5. And with that, the Mariners are on their own 4-game skid. And as of this recording, the Rangers have leapfrogged the Seattle Mariners. Remember, wasn't that long ago? The Mariners were in first place by themselves. They put themselves in a position where they were going to avoid the wild card round. Now, right now they're avoiding the wild card round because they wouldn't even be in the wild card round. The Rangers, bless them, bless Bruce Bochy, bless Bruce Bochy's lieutenants. Say that 5 times fast. With the Angels' victory and the Mariners' loss, the Angels overcame the super dramatic home run by Julio Rodriguez, and now the Rangers are the ones sitting pretty. By the way, the Rangers may not be totally out of the division, even though they went on that massive spiral not too long ago, because they're only 2 games back and 1 in the loss column behind the Astros. Well, it would have gone a real long way if the Rangers had shown up in the head-to-head series with the Houston Astros, but you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. You like my hand movements right there? By the way, have you noticed the Astros lost today? They were shut out by the Oakland A's. Have you noticed that the A's, who at one point looked like they were going to be one of the worst teams in baseball history, not only are they not going to be one of the worst teams in baseball history, they're not even the worst team in baseball right now. Have you noticed that the A's have leapfrogged the Kansas City Royals? The A's are better than the Royals, at least by the only metric that matters, which is wins and losses. So, good for the A's. They wound up beating the Rangers in a game in their series, and now they won a game against the Astros. They're showing, hey, we're not the easy sweep that you think we are. And the Astros had Framber Valdez on the mound when the A's. What was the final score of that game? The final score was 4-bagel. And so tomorrow, the A's and the Astros. Sears is pitching. Verlander's pitching for the for Houston. But let's shout out the real pitching hero for the A's. The A's did the whole opener thing, and they had who was it? They had Miller be the opener. He pitched the first couple innings. Then Waldachuk came in, and he pitched 6 no-hit innings. He pitched 6 no-hit innings against the Houston Astros. Unfortunately, Miller let up a hit in his couple innings in the front, so it wasn't like he was throwing a no-hitter. But that being said, you're going up against that lineup, and you threw 6 no-hit innings? Good for you. Good for you. By the way, there was another super dramatic home run that went for naught. The Phillies and the Atlanta Braves played a doubleheader today. And in game one, with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth inning, the Phillies put a runner on. They were down by 2, and Bryce Harper hit a 2-out game-tying homer. Can't get much better than that, except for the fact that the Braves wound up winning that game. They played a doubleheader, and the Braves actually took the second. The Phillies actually took the second game. Another big wild game. Just want to point out the Giants and the Guardians. Lamont Wade Jr. got a base hit in the bottom of the 10th inning as Class A blew another save. Every time I see the Guardians play, Class A blows the save. I don't know how it happens, but the Giants wound up winning. And with that, the Giants, who had fallen pretty far back in the wild card race, have climbed back, and they're only a game and a half out. So look, if Arizona loses tomorrow, and the Marlins and the Giants are still both hanging around, it could continue to get really, really great. But we're going to talk about the team that a lot of people think are the best team in baseball right now, and I kind of agree with them. But they better hope they don't join another bad group. Hey, let's talk a little bit about Gametime. Look, I am going to be going up to the Bay Area pretty soon, and I'm going to be catching an Oakland A's game. It's getting A's tickets, not a big challenge. But then I'm going to be here in LA County, and I'm going to be working hard to get those tickets to see the Dodgers in the postseason. That's going to be a little more stressful. But I don't think I'm going to feel that stress much because I'm going to be using the Gametime app. Buying tickets for your favorite events should not be stressful. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for sports, music, comedy, and all the theater near you. And with killer deals on last-minute tickets, you can get the best price guarantee, so you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped about the game. You get flash deals, last-minute tickets, and you get the images. I guess there's a fly went right in front of me. You get the images of your seat view, you get the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation, all those great things, especially if the Dodgers get bounced in the division series again. So guess what? You can get exclusive flash deals on tickets, and the Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you up to 110% of the difference. So purchase the Gametime ticket. Purchase your tickets through Gametime. Download the app. Use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Create an account and redeem your code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices. They are guaranteed. The Atlanta Braves wound up splitting that doubleheader with the Philadelphia Phillies, but the Braves have clinched a spot in the postseason. And with that, the Braves are currently, their record as of right now is they're 94 and 50. They are all but a cinch to win 100 games. They've all but clinched the division right now, and they're going to win 100 games. And it's I know as sports fans we are supposed to root for the upset. We're supposed to root for the underdog, and we're supposed to want to see the underdog come from behind and win. And you can't predict baseball, blah blah blah. You can't predict this, you can't predict that. And I am by no stretch of the imagination an Atlanta Braves fan. That being said, as much as I enjoy the other teams in the National League, Woodruff threw a complete game shutout for the Milwaukee Brewers. The Giants I love the Giants. The Diamondbacks going far would make my episodes with Miller Thomas all the much better. All these different things. I kind of don't want to see an upset. I kind of want to see a team that had a great regular season get rewarded for it. Because if a team is really great over 162 games, there's something that seems unfair about it for me, that they become instantly forgotten. They've earned something more than to just be a vague memory. And you saw last year, the Mets were bounced in the wild card series. Los Angeles Dodgers and the Atlanta Braves were both 100-win teams, and they got bounced in the division series. You had two sub 90-win teams in the NLCS. Yes, those upsets were fun, but there was also something about it that, for me, just I want to see really good teams go far because they've earned that. Yes, as I said, an upset every once in a while is fun. But if it happens all the time, it's like having birthday cake for breakfast. It's not going to be special after a while. And the fact of the matter is, there are some teams over the years that have gone to the division series and been bumped, even though they had tremendous regular seasons. We mentioned the three last year who were eliminated by the time the division series was over. In 2021, you had the 107-win Giants. The Giants won 107 games, and because of the stupidity of how the playoffs were set up, the two best teams in baseball, the 107-win Giants and the 106-win Los Angeles Dodgers, had to face each other in the division series. That never made any sense, but assured that a 100-win team was going to be eliminated before the National League Championship Series. I think that's ridiculous. The Dodgers were no doubt the best team in the National League, had one of the best teams, one of their best seasons in their history in 2019 when they got upset by the Washington Nationals. Now, that was a fun, great story, and I like to have situations like that. But you look at some of the teams, there have been teams who have won 100 games, some other teams that have won 100 games and been bounced in the division series. You see in 1998, the Astros, when they imported Randy Johnson, and they still had Jeff Bagwell, they still had Craig Biggio. You had right there. You would have three Hall of Famers playing in the Astrodome, and they won 102 games, and they got bumped by the San Diego Padres, who, by the way, were a very good team in 1998. But still, that's a team that very few people even remember, except for that weird wrinkle that they featured Randy Johnson. Speaking of Randy Johnson, the very next year, they were the Diamondbacks in their second season ever, wound up winning 100 games. And then they got bounced by the New York Mets and Todd Pratt. Now the Diamondbacks would win the World Series a couple of years later, but not with Buck Showalter, who helped build that team. Bob Brenly was the one who reaped the benefits of that. In 2001, the A's, where you had, Hudson, Mulder, Zito, Jason Giambi. Then if you saw Moneyball the very next year, that was the team. What a great ending that would have been for Moneyball. Think about it, in 2002, the Braves won 101 games, the Yankees won 103 games, and the A's won 103 games, and all three of those teams were eliminated in the division series. All three were gone by the league championship series. You had the Angels and the Twins playing in the ALCS, and it was Cardinals, Giants in the NLCS. Really good teams just became totally forgotten because of how early they got bumped. In 2003, you had two more teams that were 100-win teams bounced in the division series. The Giants won 100 games. The Braves won 101. Boom, boom. That became Marlins Cubs. Yes, that turned into one of the all-time great NLCSs. But you had 200-win teams that just got thrown into the dumpster of completely forgotten teams. The Angels in 2008. Talk about Angels teams. You had Vlad Guerrero was on the team. Torrey Hunter was on that team. A lot of big Angels players were on that team. They won 100 games that year. Boom, lost to the Red Sox in four. And then one of the 2011 Philadelphia Phillies were one of the best regular season teams I've ever seen. They won 102 games. They had that amazing rotation of Halladay, Oswalt, Lee, Hamels. They were filled with the players. Raul Ibanez was on that team. Utley, Rollins, Howard, Victorino. If they had won, that would have been kind of the bookend championship of that Philadelphia run. And you would have made a really compelling case that the Phillies of that era were the greatest run of any Philadelphia Phillies team, maybe any Philadelphia sports team, period, if they had won the second championship. Instead, Ryan Howard falls on the heap, and the Cardinals are the one who move on. Granted, we wound up getting a wonderful World Series with Texas, but still, you had the Cardinals won 100 games in 2015, and of course the Cleveland Indians, a year after coming within one swing of winning the World Series, go on the rampage. Looked like they were going to win it all, and somehow they lost to the Yankees at 5. Who knows what would have happened if they faced the Houston Astros? But what cruelness that would have been for Cleveland fans if they had faced the Astros and found out the Astros were cheating. But I digress. What I'm saying is a lot of those teams were really terrific, wonderful teams that nobody really remembers because they didn't get far in the postseason. And yes, upsets can be fun. Upsets can be a lot of fun. I mentioned my love for that Washington Nationals team. The upsets could set up things like the Marlins, Cubs, and LCS in 2003. I get it. I totally get it. But I also like to see teams, when they play 162 games and play at a certain high level, to be remembered. Yeah, I'm not a Braves fan. I'm not really a Dodgers fan. But I do want to see great teams be rewarded for a great regular season. Hey, let's talk a little bit about our friends at Sleeper. There we go. Let's go to friends at Sleeper. Now look at, I am going to use my Sleeper app because I want to win big with the Major League Baseball playoffs right around the corner. The clock is ticking on your chance to get 100 times your cash on daily fantasy baseball. Baseball has never been more exciting than it is right now, with great studs like, we mentioned Julio Rodriguez. We mentioned Bryce Harper. We mentioned Ronald Acuna Jr. I think it did. Well, it doesn't matter. Pick more or less on stats for these stars like home runs, hits, strikeouts, and more for a 100 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right, and you could win big. So use promo code LOCKEDON. You will get $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. Sleeper's terms of use. Check them out on our description. And guess what? You get your 100 times your cash if you use Sleeper. When? Today. And bet on Julio Rodriguez in the clutch. John from Locked On Angels has had some, he's posted a couple of things at me. Angel fans don't like me. That just seems to be a fact these days. I've made it clear I want to see the Angels do well because I'm a fan of Trout. I'm a fan of Ohtani. So I don't take pleasure in pointing out the failures of the team this year. Now, the good folks at the Super Halo Brothers, led by John, wanted to point out to me all of the injuries that the Angels have had over this year. And all these pitchers and Rendon and Trout and Ohtani, everyone's been hurt on the team. Everyone's been hurt, left and right on this team. And yeah, that's true. They have been. But do you know what? Why is it that the Angels can have these injuries? Why is it that that's their excuse? And for other teams, It's not the same excuse. If you drive up the 5 from where the Angels are playing, you will find the Los Angeles Dodgers. Guess what? They've lost Tony Gonsolin. They've lost Walker Buehler for the entire year. They've lost Dustin May for the entire year. They've lost at least one other. Uh, they got nothing out of Noah Syndergaard. They've lost Michael Grove. They've lost how many more pitchers do they have to lose? They've lost Gavin Stone. They've lost Gus Varland. How many more pitchers do they have to lose on this team, left and right? And they also had injuries to Clayton Kershaw. He only wound up making 21 starts this year. They're leaning on Bobby Miller. They're leaning on Lance Lynn. They're leaning on guys who were in the minor leagues 2 minutes ago on this team. And oh yeah, they also lost Julio Urias because he's a piece of garbage. So, you take a look at a team that's basically lost their starting rotation and have had their share of injuries in the lineup as well. Maybe not as drastic as what's been happening with the Angels, but still, that's an entire starting pitching rotation. And this team's going to wind up winning 90-something games and cruising to the division title. How about Tampa Bay, who doesn't quite have the spending power of the Angels? Have you noticed that all year long, whether it's Shane McClanahan, whether it's Springs, whether it's who was the other one? Drew Rasmussen. How many players on that starting staff have to be injured for the year? And yet we look up and they're going to, unless they have an absolute collapse, they're going to wind up being a 90-something win team and making the postseason. Why are other teams able to withstand a ton of injuries? Is it because those teams are constructed better? Is it because they have better farm systems? Is it because they didn't go out and spend the huge money on fragile players? Or if they do have players who break down, they find ways to replace them? And you'll notice those teams I mentioned, the Dodgers and the Rays, have been participants in the postseason over the last bunch of years. The Rays were devastated with injuries last year and still managed to get to the postseason, still managed to win. Okay? When you've gone, 6, 7 years? How long has it been since the Angels have reached the Everest of a 500 season? When you keep churning out losing year after losing year, no matter if you have injuries or no injuries, Hall of Fame managers or interim managers, 500 still cannot be achieved. I'm sorry, you don't get the benefit of the doubt of, we would have had a winning season if we were healthy. Really? Really? Then how come these other teams can pull it off? The Dodgers have Lance Lynn right now as their number 2 starter with all the devastating injuries they've had, and they're still going to see 90 wins. So I'm sorry, not buying it. I'm not buying it. It's poor management who's taken away what I wanted to see, which is Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani on the big stage. Yell at me all you want. Where am I wrong? Where am I wrong? Speaking of 500 win seasons, today's trivia question revolves around a franchise who could not finish above 500 despite having a ton of talent in many of their years until the 1990s. So the trivia question is this: which Seattle Mariners manager was the first one to ever lead the Mariners to a winning season? The first year the Mariners ever finished above 500, who was their manager? So, and one hint is he won the Rookie of the Year as a player. So put the answers right down here. on YouTube, or send it to Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. My eyesight is getting a little blurry. I'm starting to lose my voice. So I think it's time for me to end the podcast. This has been Locked On MLB for the 12th day of September 2023. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.